You may be wondering how to answer theme versus main idea questions. In this video, I will work through an example question using a 4-step reading strategy. Angela here from Custom Classroom, helping make test prep simple. Let's quickly review what is theme. The theme is the message, lesson, or moral of a text. So for example, in the fable, The Ant and the grasshopper learns he should have spent more time preparing for the winter and less time making music. Now let's look at what is main idea. So the main idea is what the text is mostly about. So in the ant and the grasshopper example here, the main idea is the grasshopper has to come and beg for food from the ants because he was playing all summer. So how are these different? So in the case of the ant and the grasshopper, the theme is what the grasshopper learned, which is to work some in the summer. Versus the main idea is really just what the grasshopper actually did throughout the story, which is he had to come and beg for food. To work through, to have an example here, I'm going to work through some theme and main idea questions using a 4-step reading strategy. I've made another video specifically about this 4-step strategy if you would like to check it out. In the steps, we will scan, target text, actively read, and respond. Now let's work through a few theme and main idea questions. So let's start with step 1, which is to scan the questions. I'm going to be thinking, is there a whole question, which is going to require information throughout the entire passage, or is it a part question where students will need to return and only look at a certain section of the text? So let's look at the first question. What is the passage mostly about? Well, this is a whole question since you need to look at the whole text to discover this main idea. Now let's look at the second question. Which theme is explored in the passage? Well, this is also a whole question since you need to look at all parts of the text to determine the theme. Now let's look at the third question. What do you think the magician is planning? So this is a part question since we will need to return to the text and look for specific pieces of what the magician is planning against Aladdin. All right, let's move on to step 2, which is target the text. Here we're going to read the passage carefully. So this is from Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. But far away in Africa, the magician remembered Aladdin, and by his magic arts discovered that Aladdin, instead of perishing miserably in the cave, had escaped and had married a princess, with whom he was living in great honor and wealth. He knew that the poor tailor's son could only have accomplished this by means of the lamp, and traveled night and day till he reached the capital of China, bent on Aladdin's ruin. As he passed through the town, he heard people talking everywhere about a marvelous palace. Forgive my ignorance, he asked. What is the palace you speak of? Have you not heard of Prince Aladdin's palace? Was the reply. The greatest wonder in the world. I will direct you if you have a mind to see it. The magician thanked him who spoke, and having seen the palace, knew that it had been raised by the genie of the lamp, and became half mad with rage. He determined to get hold of the lamp and again plunge Aladdin into the deepest poverty. So now we can see that this is a fictional passage about Aladdin and a magical lamp. So for step 3, actively read, I would have students go back and reread. As they read, they fill in the setting, character, problem, and solution. So we're just going to look at those here. So first off is the setting, which is mostly kind of taking place in the capital of China. The characters are Aladdin, the magician, and the genie. The problem is the magician is trying to find Aladdin and take away the lamp. And in here, the solution hasn't happened yet, since this passage is an excerpt and we don't actually find out what happens when the magician finds Aladdin. So let's move on to step 4, which is respond to the questions. We'll start with question 1 first, since it was a whole question. What is the passage mostly about? A, the magician learning about the great palace Aladdin lived in. This is not correct, since learning about the palace is just one detail of what he discovers in the passage. Let's look at B, the magician wanting the genie of the lamp. This is also incorrect since the magician only talks about wanting the lamp at the end. C, the magician learning about Aladdin's great fortune. Well, this sounds possible because the passage does talk about Aladdin's fortune throughout the whole passage, but let's read the next one and come back. D, magician trying to get rid of Aladdin. So yes, this is part of the problem, which seems pretty important, but it's really only talked about at the end of the passage. So um, it is incorrect. So let's think about this answer C again. So this is really the best answer here for main idea, or specifically, what is the passage mostly about? All throughout the passage, you can see the magician is learning little bits about Aladdin and his wealth and his marvelous palace. And yes, he does want the genie, and he is trying to stop Aladdin. And those are important problems, but that's what makes their difference between main idea. Is it really needs to be about the whole text and what's happening throughout it, not just what you think is most important. All right, let's move on to question 2, since it's a whole question. Which theme is explored in the passage? So here for theme, we need to be thinking about what we can learn. So let's look at A. Never underestimate someone. All right, this sounds pretty possible since the magician does underestimate Aladdin, and he thought he had kind of taken care of him, but then Aladdin survives and gets this lamp and all this wealth throughout the passage. But let's look at the other choices. B, see the positive side of things. This is incorrect. There's no really a point where the characters are looking on the positive side. It's mostly about the magician being upset with Aladdin and all that he's gotten from the lamp. C, people want what others have. This is also incorrect. The passage does talk about the magician wanting the lamp, but this is just one example. It does not really show us an overall message that all people want what others have. And then let's look at D. People should be honest. This is also incorrect. There's really nothing mentioned about lying or not being honest. So if we look back here, A is our best answer choice, to never underestimate anyone. They might always come back and surprise you. So now for our final question, which is a part question. And it says, what do you think the magician is planning? So here we need to make a prediction or an inference using clues from the passage. So if we look back in the passage, we can see that the magician had hoped Aladdin perished miserably. He travels day and night trying to get to him so he can ruin him. And at the end, it says he is determined to get a hold of the lamp and again plunge Aladdin into deepest poverty. So here is a possible answer using these clues to answer this question. I think the magician is planning to trick Aladdin and steal the lamp, since the passage says he is determined to get hold of the lamp. Then I think the magician will use the lamp to take everything that Aladdin received from the genie, because the passage says he wants to plunge Aladdin into deep poverty again. So this is a possible answer for students. They might word it a little bit differently or use different clues, but the big idea here is that they're going back and they're using specific text evidence to prove their answer choice. If you're looking for more theme or main idea practice for your students, check out my task cards at Teachers Pay Teachers. I hope you found this video helpful. Check out my playlist to learn more about answering reading skills questions.